I am back. Originally, I said in the last video that I was gonna do another video next week, but then I decided, why not just start dishing some out? So, I don't know. I mean, like, instead of waiting for next week, why not just dish some out and show you guys everything? And then start scheduling different days where I'm gonna post videos. Okay, so that's just my thought about the whole thing. So right now, I'm actually going to show you guys how to get your character inside the game, and and hopefully I teach you guys how to script a little bit and a few other things. So let's hop right in. Um, so as you know, you got your assets folder. What I want you guys to do is create a couple of more folders. Um, so right click on assets, go to create folder, and we're gonna name this scripts. The next one we're gonna name prefabs, and that is all we're gonna need for this right now. Um, so as you know, we imported our characters. We got our idle, we got our walking, we got our jumping, we got our platforms. I'm actually going to move the scene up here, so I just have a better viewing angle and put the game console right down here. Okay. So what we could do basically is that instead of just importing just one sprite, we're going to import multiple sprites. Okay, so we're gonna like do this in a different way. So we got all four right here. That's our walking. Okay. So what you're gonna do is just grab the first one. You're gonna hold down Shift and grab the last one. And so you're gonna move these on to your scene, and you're gonna let go of that mouse button, and voila. Now, what I've created here is a animator, and basically, what happens is that when I come into my animation panel, it should have. Interesting. Did it do it? Let's actually play that and see if it works. As you can see, our character is actually moving inside of a scene. What I did was I took all the images that I wanted. I basically selected them all, put them all in a scene, and what Unity did was create an animation for those sprites. And we got a little crazy little guy doing his little dance over here. Okay. So, we're going to name this actually player. So we got an idle animation so far. We got our... Actually, let me just explain this real quick. For when you go down to animation, there's actually, it shows you where they put the frames for your sprites. 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is the 4 idle sprites that we used and what Unity compiled into a simple animation. Right, here's your samples. Your samples basically will determine how fast or slow the animation speed will be. So, for example, if I put this down to 8, and let me start recording. Also, by the way, when you start to move things around and you're in the animation area, what you want to do is take off that recording sometimes, because what happens is if you move anything and this is on, it will mess with your animation. So fair warning. And so we're just going to play this animation. And as you can see, it is slower. Okay. So now, what are we going to do? Is that we're going to give this player physics. So where you're going to go is going to go to add a component in your inspector. And then you are going to go to rigid body 2D. Not rigid body 2D, because we're dealing with 2D elements. And so right here you got your mass, linear drag, angular drag, gravity scale, is kinematic, or whatever it is. Can't even pronounce it right. I got a problem with that. Interpolate, sleeping mode, collision detection, constraints. This will basically freeze your X and Y and Z values, so the character won't move, because basically you froze them. So I'm going to show you right now what happens to the player. Boom. He just keeps falling and falling and falling and falling and falling. See, what you could do here is you can add gravity to it. So what happens if we add to the gravity scale 3? Drops faster. What happens if we add to the mass? The mass is going to be the same thing. It's just they got more mass instead of the gravity piece to it. This will determine, like, the objects that hit it will kind of give it like a physics of. Basically, if you think about physics, mass, gravity, everything should come into your mind of how things work. Collision detection, discrete. Some people like to put this on continuous, depending on the situation that is going on in the game. So far, we don't know our situation, so discrete's fine right now. Okay, so since we got a player, we're gonna add ground. So I'm gonna grab my ground. When I did tile sets for ground, I'm gonna rename that ground. I'm also, if you go back to your player, what you want to do is add a collision. Okay, so we have a ground, we have a player. Okay, as you can see, the player goes through the ground because there is no collision going on whatsoever. So what we want to do is that you want to go to add component. What you want to find is box collider 2D. Or if you guys want to mess with the different types of colliders, you can. But preferably, I would go for box collider 2D just because my character looks like a box. And so we have our collider, as you can see. And we're going to go to edit collider. And we're going to move this down to fit our character. You got the 4 spots, as you can see. And all we do is clicking those spots to move a certain segment of a box collider. And bam, baby. You've got a collider. Now for ground, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to add a box collider to our ground. As you can see, it fits perfectly with the shape of our platform. Now, what happens if we press play now, since we have colliders? Well, boom. We got a little floating character on a platform. See, with this, sometimes it's bad to be too precise, because sometimes, I don't know why Unity does this, but you get like a kind of an open space. So what you want to do, actually, is when you're creating your players, sometimes people would move this up a little bit, and this will then give it a more, as you can see, a better it makes your character look like it's actually standing on a platform or an object. So I can see that's a little bit too much, so what I'm going to do is lower this down a little bit more. And bam. Now he's really floating. No, I'm just joking. He's not floating, guys. Okay. So now that happened. What I want you guys to do is that I want you to go to tag. And what I want you to do is add tag. And I want you to name tag 0 player. This is important just in case if you guys want to do like collision events. So I will give you a code, and what happens was like I give this to do a certain thing to yada 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 game object player. So it's important for our learning purposes in terms of collisions. The way I'm going to teach you. So player is going to be player, and for that layer we also going to do a layer for the player. Player. Alright now. And I want you to do the same thing for the ground. So I'm just gonna go to the plus sign and name it ground. I'm gonna do the same thing for layer. Ground. Alright. So I basically taught you collisions. I taught you how to import multiple sprites to make an animation inside of Unity. And I taught you a technique if you have a floating character and how to fix that issue. So now I've taught you guys those things. I'm going to go down to my script. Alright, so go to the scripts folder, which is in your assets, and then go create C# script. All our code is going to be done in C# script. If you prefer JavaScript, then you could do JavaScript, which is, in terms of C# script and JavaScript, they're very similar. So don't be scared of trying a different code. So we're going to go to a C# script. We're going to name this player controller. Okay. After we name this player controller, we're going to click and we're going to open Mono Develop. Some people have Visual Studio, which is way better in my opinion. It's faster, more responsive. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're just using all default settings. So what's going to happen is that we want to make variables. Okay, variables are basically what are we going to use to make this character move. So first, we're going to call this public float move speed, because we want the character to move. So if we want the character to move, then we have to make a variable for we want to make a variable for the speed of where the character is going towards, basically. And we also want the character to jump, so we're going to make a variable for the character to jump. So public float jump power. Okay. So public will basically makes this script accessible to other scripts instead of being stuck to one whole script. So if I made another script instead of player controller, I could do like yada yada manager, game manager, yada yada. And I want to access the move speed for the player controller. What I'm going to do is I'm going to access the whole script, so public player controller, and then I'll give that public player controller a variable name, which would be the player. And the player, and I could make an additive, so dot move speed equal 5, so I could change the move speed in a different script. But that's for another tutorial. I'm just giving you an example of what public is. So if you wrote this in private, that means this script could only access it. For our tutorial's sake, we want to make this public because there's many variables that can affect the move speed. Okay, so now we go down to void update. Void update is basically void update is basically accessing the frame per frame. I hope I'm saying that right. I hope that makes sense. Um, since we got our public float, move speed, public float, jump power, what we want to do is if 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 you want to make an if statement that would input our key code to make the character move. So if input get key down key code space I'm trying to remember. Hold on, guys. Key code. Did I change this? If input get key down, if key code. Oh, that's weird. So if key code space. That's weird how that. Okay, my fault. I didn't put the. I didn't capitalize it, which would give an error. Make sure you capitalize everything. Well, not everything. But make sure capitalization is very important because it could totally mean something different from lowercase key code to uppercase key code. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually access the physics of our character. So what we want to do is that we want to get the component. So get component. Rigid body 2D. Velocity. So basically from our magnitude to our pointer direction. And what we're going to do is do equal new vector 2. So basically we're giving it a new position. Vector 2 basically gives you x and y values. Vector 3 gives you x, y, and z. Since this is a 2D game, we're accessing x and y. So we're going to go to, so basically our character has a vector already. But what we want to do is want to move it. So we have to give it a new vector. So new vector 2, 0. Because we don't want nothing for our x value. And we're going to put this as jump power. Jump power. That's right. Okay, so if you, for every time this is updated, every time the game is updated, which is every second, basically, if we hit our spacebar, our rigid body 2D, the velocity of our character, new vector 2 would access the jump power variable, which is whatever we put in for this variable, and it will launch our character up. So let me just save this and show you guys. Also, if you go back to your player, what you want to do is that also you want to add the script to it. So player controller. We're going to access the player controller, and as you can see, move speed and jump power. All we're doing right now is focusing on jump power. So what we're going to do is going to add 5 to our jump power. And let's now see what's going to happen as we press play. Oh, look at that! He jumping. Ooh, okay. So as you can see now, the character could jump. Now, come on, guys. This is pretty fun. This is awesome. All right. So now, what we want to do is access our D and A keys. So what we're going to do is copy this, Control C. We're going to move down a little bit, Shift Enter, and we're going to hit Control V. Now, if key code, for example, we're going to change key code dot space to key code D. And what we're going to do is that instead of jump power, we're going to set this to 0. Because we're not accessing Y. We're going to access X to move speed. Now, what you want to do is that you want to copy this again, and we want to make it to key code A. Now, the reason why I'm gonna put this down, why I'm gonna give move speed a minus is because we're moving in the opposite direction. Because we're moving in the opposite direction, we're gonna give it a negative. Now, let's save the script, and let me show you what I mean by that. As we press play, we actually didn't give it a move speed. If it doesn't work for some reason, if your script doesn't just work, make sure you access the move speed. That's a silly mistake on my end. So now we are going to give a move speed of 5. Actually, in 1. 5 is too fast. So let's see what happens. He starts moving. Look at that. And now we can jump. As you can see, it feels a little bit funky. So instead of key code down, well, we could worry about that for later. I think I'm running out of time. So I basically showed you just simple movements of our character. Teach you how to jump, teach you your collisions. I teach you about gamer tags and layers, and also I teach you how to import your sprites into Unity to make it an animation. Alright guys, well I have to end it here for today. If you guys like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and peace out, baby. Hello guys, this is Pizel, and today we're going to continue our Unity series on how to create a game, a 2D game from the beginning to all the way